Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Friday. It's February 19th. Today's assignment is your IB assessment for competition. Okay. This is very similar to last week's IB assessment. Okay. I know a lot of you guys had fallen behind a little bit, and we're starting to get caught up. So, last week's IB assessment asked for a 5-sentence summary. Okay. This week we introduced the idea of a limiting factor, and that limiting factor is how I expect you to get from 5 sentences to 7 sentences. Okay, so one last time to run through all of this together. Okay, this is basically going to be the same video as the last like 4 I feel like I've posted, but that's all right. I want to make sure everybody's got it. Okay, so in nature, whether it's plants, animals, bacteria, fungus, whatever, right, they're competing over resources. Resources are food, water, shelter, mates, just whatever they need to survive and to be able to pass on their genetics, right? Have babies so that their DNA is passed forward into future generations. Okay, so if there's a ton of resources, all of the creatures are going to have access to it, right? So if there's tons of resources, they don't have to fight with each other for it, right? So a lot of animals can live with a lot of resources, and there doesn't have to be a ton of competition. As long as everybody has access to what they need, there's not going to be competing over it, right? Obviously, there might be some competition. Somebody might have to go a little bit farther for their food, whatever. But that population can still be high because there's a ton of resources, right? If the resources start to lower, the population has to lower too, right? Because if there's only so much food, there can only be so much animals to eat that food or plants to get that water or whatever it may be, okay? So when the resources are high, the populations are high. When the resources are low, the populations will lower, right? But what will go up when the resources are lower is the competition, right? Because if there's not very much food or there's not very much water, now all these creatures have to compete for it. They might have to, get to the, like, whoever's better at hunting is going to get more food. That species is going to survive, pass on its DNA. The other one might die, okay? So when there's low resources, competition's high. When there's high resources, competition's low. Okay, that was basically last week's IB assessment. For this week, we talked about limiting factors. A limiting factor is just anything that kind of puts a cap on the population, like how many there can be, right? Like something that keeps it from going up anymore, even if there are like extra resources, right? So let's say there's plenty of resources. There's plenty of grass, there's plenty of bushes, whatever, for the deer, okay? But there's also a bunch of coyotes in this area. Okay, so that is a limiting factor. That predator of a coyote is a limiting factor. Even though there's enough resources to have a ton more deer, those coyotes eat the deer, right? They hunt it and they keep that population a little bit lower. Okay, other things can be limiting factors as well, like disease. If there was a disease that spreads through like the juniper tree population and a bunch of these trees die, right? That's a limiting factor because there was enough sun, there was enough water, there was enough resources for these trees to grow, but they didn't. Okay, there's also like man-made things, right? Like if we put a dam in a river and that prevents as many fish from getting up and spawning in the spring or whatever, the fall. I think they spawn in the fall. I don't remember. They spawn in the spring for sure. Okay, so then another one like wildfires, like natural disasters. If there was a fire on the hill and now the grass and the bushes are gone, now those deer, those bunnies don't have anywhere to live, right? So that's going to kind of cap how many can survive. All right, so that's like super duper brief. But with this information, with how much stuff we've gotten, there's really no reason at this point to not be able to go get an 8 on both of those IB assessments. Okay? So make it happen. Make sure you have everything else turned in. At this point, there shouldn't be any missing assignments or late assignments in your team's list unless you and I have spoken, right? There's some unique circumstances out there. But for the most part, we shouldn't have anything left to turn in. Okay? Also, there's a few of you out there that are just turning stuff in blank. You got to check your grades, man. Like you're not getting credit for that stuff. Okay. If you're just turning me in blank work, you're getting blank grades back. So you need us to put in effort. You try in this class, you're going to get a good grade. That's it. All right, dudes. Peace out. Have a good one.